Well, what's up in there, guys? Brian here, D3 Topics Gamer, here to give you another episode of my weekly Q&A titled The People's Questions, where I answer a series of questions that have been sent to me over the past week. This episode is undoubtedly going to be a bit shorter because in terms of actual questions that I have for the video, I got like 3 of them. They're kind of pretty straightforward. I did get a lot more other questions, but sadly something kind of happened on a personal level. It kind of put me in a bad mood, so I just kind of ended up answering a lot of questions in the comment section. I was just kind of in a really, really bad mood, really personal. So I, hope you guys are, don't come at me too much in the comment section. So, like always, if you happen to at least, are okay with how this video comes out, just don't forget to hopefully you'll give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. So jump right into the first of 3 questions. First one kind of comes from Winter Ghost, and your question was a little bit too stretched out, but I was able to kind of simplify it, and you basically just want to know what are a few of the most annoying bosses that I faced. When I think about bosses that have annoyed me, I'm like trying to think, because bosses nowadays are not as tough as they were back in the 90s. Games today are designed to be beaten. During like the 8-bit or 16-bit era, or heck, even some games back during the era when the first PlayStation and the Nintendo 64 and that generation, you legitimately have to get better at a game in order to progress. You had to memorize certain patterns. You had to actually kind of increase your skill level. That's not how gaming is today. So because of that, when I think about it, there aren't really too many games that I've played recently, even in the past 10 years, I would say were really annoying. So like one that kind of comes to mind when I think about it, I'm trying to think, what was it? I was just thinking about it just like a moment ago. Hang on. I swear, I just had it. Can't really think of it. There aren't really any. Okay, wait. Now I remember who it was. Kronika from the most recent Mortal Kombat. She was definitely annoying. Anyone who saw my stream could see my frustration with that character. Very, very pissed off. I think she was probably the hardest final boss for a Mortal Kombat game I've ever played. Usually when it comes to final bosses in Mortal Kombat games, there's usually like a kind of simple way to take them out. There's like something you can do. Like for Shao Kahn, you just stick to staying back and using projectiles, and with Onaga, you just kind of stay close and use a bunch of close hits and just repeat the same combo over and over. Kronika seemed to be a little bit different because at time, like even if you were doing pretty well, she would summon characters. She would summon like 2 or 3, like I think like 2 characters that you just like there's certain characters you like when you're playing as like God Liu Kang that you're kind of good at, but like for whatever reason during my playthroughs, she always managed to summon characters that I just am not good at fighting against. It's like, well, if you throw this character at me, I could probably take them out. If there was this character, I could take them out. But she always threw someone like a Kung Lao or Scorpion or someone that was just a really difficult character to play against. And like, there's some characters that are really good against others, and there are others that just work better against other characters. I'm not sure if I was playing on the hardest difficulty. I don't think I would have ever done that, because I don't recall ever doing that for any Mortal Kombat game. But like, just off the top of my head, Kronika is probably the only boss in recent years that I can think of that was just really annoying. That comes to mind. Next question comes from Williams, and you want to know, what is my favorite and least favorite Zelda games? The problem with this question is I haven't played a Zelda game in 20 years. I'm not really a big Zelda fan. I think I've played only 3 Zelda games, which are Link to the Past and Oracle of Ages and Seasons for the Game Boy Color. That was like almost 20 years ago. I have not touched a Zelda game since. I've not played some of the more popular ones. I've not played any of the first ones. I've not played, Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask or Wind Waker or any of the. It's kind of hard to pick a least because I haven't played them all. But I will say that probably my favorite of the 3 I've played was probably Link to the Past. But again, I haven't played that in 20 years and don't really have an interest in playing that Zelda game again. It just doesn't seem like a franchise that I'm really just all that interested anymore. So, yeah. And the last question of the episode was also a rather extensive question that was able to kind of summarize it. And it comes from Venom Rules All, and you basically want to know, do I think that the franchises of Metal Gear, Silent Hill, and Castlevania can be saved? Well, I don't really care much about Silent Hill because not a fan of it. Castlevania and Metal Gear, however, I think if you get away from Konami and you give it to just any competent developer that, at least at this point, if another developer got the rights to Metal Gear or Castlevania, the one thing I would ask them to do is do it their own style. If for one reason or another, let's say, because there's been rumors that Sony was going to try to buy the rights to these franchises and make them exclusive franchises. To be fair, I honestly would not want Hideo Kojima coming next to Metal Gear. As a fan, I would not want him getting involved with Metal Gear again. He has already established his legacy. He doesn't need to go back. I'm more interested in seeing what he does after Metal Gear. And honestly, I actually thought Death Stranding was a solid first good start for his production. So give it to someone else. And I would honestly ask for a hard reboot. A complete hard reboot of Metal Gear. Use different characters, use different storylines. I mean, obviously you gotta have like the Metal Gear weapon, create a whole new Metal Gear design, have it be something completely different. I want a hard reboot. That way you can establish, okay, the old Metal Gear, that is Kojima's Metal Gear. This new Metal Gear is going to be a new interpretation. I'm completely open to that. Now, as for Castlevania, it's kind of crazy how I think the last one we had was like Lord of Shadows 2, which I recall was a pretty decent game, and we haven't really had a Castlevania game since. And now with the success of the Netflix series, now is a perfect time to want to try to reboot that. So, whatever they do, just have it be entertaining and well executed. So, I mean, heck, do I think it can be saved? Absolutely, but it cannot be done under the house of Konami. It needs to be put in the hands of someone else who has a vision, knows what they want to do, wants to respect the fans, but wants to let the fans know that this interpretation is their own take on these franchises. That way, I'm much more open for that. That is what I would like to see. So, yes, I do think overall they can be saved. And with that, those are pretty much just the main 3 questions that I thought were, pretty solid for this particular video. I'd like to thank the 3 of you that sent any questions, as well as everyone else whose questions I entered in the comment section of the last video. If you guys have any questions you'd like me to answer in next week's episode, be sure to type them in the comments down below, but make sure you get to enter me roughly around Wednesday before I start filming the next episode. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next week.